Hi, it's Lisa with IVF Manifesting a Miracle, and I'm here with our good friend, Dr. Greene of Conceptions. Hey, Dr. Greene.
How you doing?
Good. It's been so long. We're getting back into the clinical conversation, so I'm really excited to have a chat with you.
Well, exactly. And not only that, it's far enough into the pandemic that I don't have my mask on and I'm in the great outdoors. Not really, but the wallpaper looks like it.
We got
So
Dr. Greene sitting in the greens here.
exactly.
So today's topic, I would love to have your thoughts on transfer tips. A lot of my clients are going through transfers. You know, this is a common thing that people would love to have guidance on, to know, what are some things that I could do to help give myself the best chance of our embryo implanting and transferring. So I know it has to transfer first before the implantation. So maybe we'll just start with anything you can advise us on what you tell your patients.
Yeah, well, first of all the rules of pregnancy apply on transfer time. Keep in mind that ideally, by the time a woman walks out of an embryo transfer suite, she is theoretically in an early pregnancy. So all the things we want people to do during pregnancy should already be, in place. Things like prenatal vitamins, good nutrition, absolutely no tobacco, including secondhand smoke, avoiding strong fumes. No one is allowed to wear perfumes or colognes at our center, okay? Patients or staff, because if you
isn't it?
Well, preferably everything should be unscented. Because believe it or not, every fragrance that is enhanced, they add an ingredient called phthalates, okay? And the reason phthalates are added to products, whether it's perfume or deodorant or even laundry detergent, is to make something that they've added a smell to smell good for a longer period of time. And the problem is those same chemicals have been linked to a lower implantation rate. Now, keep in mind, anything that you can smell means that it's actually in your bloodstream. Okay, it's like an injection. So, and that's why any drugs that are inhaled are the most rapid onset drugs, because they're immediately in the bloodstream. So you could imagine any strong smells on the day of transfer, particularly artificial smells, like air fresheners or colognes, those really strong, powerful, like when you walk into one of those candle stores or something, any of those strong fragrances could interfere with implantation. Okay. So avoiding that is really a good idea. And again, we don't let our staff wear expensive colognes or perfumes. Okay. We politely tell them, do that on your time socially, but that could interfere with the, embryo's ability to implant and grow.
Okay.
So I think it's an important tip that doesn't get talked about often enough.
Because they are hormone disruptors, right? All those scents.
Exactly. Those chemicals are classified as hormone disrupting chemicals. And so again, there's just, why use it? Why expose yourself to it? And why pay extra for it if it's going to hinder your success rates? So go natural. There's a lot of unscented products. Be clean and go natural, and you don't have to worry about odors. Okay.
Good tip.
Other things that are important, a lot of people think bed rest is required. Absolutely not. That was a long held piece of advice based on an abundance of caution and an absence of data. I could tell you, in the early days of embryo transfers, patients were made to lie flat for 2 weeks using a bedpan and everything, like standing up was going to displace an embryo. And literally, we used to lift patients flat off the bed and keep them flat, and they weren't allowed to get out of bed. And success rates were far lower than they are today. Okay. Now, fast forward, we don't want patients to start exercising vigorously. It's not a good day to sign up for a new CrossFit class. But light activity, walking up and down stairs, as you naturally would, but not competitively, is acceptable. Walking around to the bathroom is much healthier than using a bedpan. Going out for a brief walk in the sunshine, as long as it's not 100 degrees, is something that could be health promoting. So
Okay.
bed rest is counterproductive. And the reason, again, in the early days, they didn't have data. So the default idea was bed rest. Over the last 40 years, we've got a lot of data that shows bed rest is bad and light activity is good.
Okay.
So again, but I could tell you that many people still recommend bed rest, and there's zero data supporting it. And there is actually data that shows it could be detrimental. It could increase the risk of blood clots and lower the chances of success. Okay. And a third key tip I tell people is find a way to reduce stress. And stress is something that people think they can wish away, and you can't. Okay. Yeah. But there are several ways you can use your brain to actively reduce stress. One of the most fun and active ways is to laugh. Mm-hmm. And there have literally been studies that show that people that laugh out loud on the day of transfer have the highest success rates. And there was one study where they literally had patients meeting with a comedian after their transfer, and they randomized who met with the comedian and who didn't. And they had not only the patients, judging their experience, but the nurses also were taking notes on whether someone laughed out loud. Okay. And they found that the people that actually laughed out loud had a significantly higher success rate. So I tell patients, get a funny movie, don't watch the news. The news is not funny, and get something, that really makes you laugh. And I think we've all experienced a situation where we felt like we were under stress and we laughed and we felt better. And sometimes you even apologize because, it's not a situation where you should be laughing, but that's one of the ways that our brain releases stress. So get a good comedy. And another way to do it is just by slow, deep breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. When our body is under stress, our heart rate goes up. We start to feel sweaty. We start to feel symptoms of anxiety. And one thing we don't realize is that we tend to breathe very, very shallow.
Oh, for sure.
Now, we can't really control our heart rate. We can't control our sweatiness. But when you interrupt that breathing reflex and do slow, deep breathing exercises, that actually tells your body you could turn off that stress response. So there's a lot of inexpensive apps that people can download onto their phone that can talk them through some simple deep breathing exercises that can measurably offset stress. And by offsetting stress, they're going to be boosting their success rates.
These are all wonderful tips. And I was just thinking, having gone through this myself, and there are a lot of superstitions with eating, like, say, the McDonald's French fries is one, and pineapple core. Any kind of just thoughts on that?
Yeah, both of those have absolutely no data, and the data that's available suggests that the French fries could actually be a very bad idea.
Really?
And again, I don't know who came up with this, but one of the, there's a lot of different chemicals that are produced whenever anything is deep fried. And particularly for patients with PCOS, they're at the highest risk for these dangerous chemicals that are caused when food is cooked at high temperature. And keep in mind, the reason French fries are crisp is because they're cooked at such a high temperature. So there is actually available data that shows that this could significantly reduce people's success rates. And there's no data that it could improve people's success rates whatsoever. Second thing that's important, there's no better way to increase fluid retention for people that are at risk of ovarian hyperstimulation than to give them salty foods. And so there's more than one good reason that people should not be going to McDonald's for French fries.
That's a great tip.
And again, these things start out as rumors that somebody did something and maybe they got pregnant despite that bad thing they did. But there's also people that get pregnant while they're smoking and using crack cocaine. And that doesn't mean that that's something we should be recommending either.
Right. And what about the pineapple core? Do you have any thoughts on the bromelain?
Pineapple cores are non-digestible. There's never been any data that showed there was any benefits to pineapple core. It was something that someone came up with because there are some benefits of certain bromines, which is a chemical in certain foods. And so I think someone got the idea of maybe I could take something that's normally considered trash and convince people to pay me for it. But there's literally no data. And the reality is if someone swallows too much pineapple core, they can get something called a bezoar, which is a non-digestible clump of fibrous tissue that could block their digestive tract. So there's no benefit and there is potential risk.
Okay, well, you're shattering some myths out here.
Well, like I said, I don't know how these things get started, but it's amazing because once they do get started, they take legs. I think the whole reason that the pineapple core thing got started is for people that are familiar with the Hawaiian culture, is that the pineapple is itself considered a symbol of good luck and fertility in a homestead. Okay. And I would say if someone wants to eat pineapple, but why eat the core? It's non-digestible. That's the reason they take it out.
I mean, I was advised, to be honest, not from you, somebody else, that have a little bit of pineapple core with some pineapple a few days before transfer, a little bit after, like few days.
And the reason they say a little bit is because you won't get a bezoar from a little bit, but you won't get any benefit.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad I'm talking to you about this.
But I mean, but the problem is for most people, they think of a little bit of something is good. More is always better. And so if you say it's okay to have a little bit, then a lot of people think, well, maybe I need to double or triple up on it. And then they might be in the emergency room with an intestinal obstruction.
Do you encourage people to drink a lot of water around transfer time, or does that, I mean, you do drink water with the full bladder, I know that, but
yeah, water is fine, but even water is something that people can overdose on. Too much water does increase someone's risk of having low sodium levels, and people have died from these contests where they try to drink too much water. So the reality is moderation in all things.
Okay, and if people want to learn more about the diet tips, you and I did a chat about that on
exactly
on the foods to eat and all of that, just for going through fertility treatments. But you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Well, like I said, it's always helpful to be open to the facts. We're in an era where a lot of people think that the opinions of quote influencers are more important than data. But what I always hear that I love about science is it's true even if you don't believe in it.
It's true.
So if someone recommends something to you, ask them for any data whatsoever on it. If there's no data, you might want to think twice.
Yeah, well, this is great. If anybody out there has more topics that you'd like us to cover, please reach out to either Dr. Greene or myself. I'm at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com and help support you in feeling empowered on your fertility path, especially through IVF. So Dr. Greene, you're awesome. We'll do another one of these soon.
Have a happy day.
Yes. Happy day, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.